And good evening, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk, Real Talk on Parental Alienation. And we are live from Hamilton, Ontario, Sault Ste. Marie, and Vancouver Island. Joining me tonight, we have on Let's Talk, Real Talk is the Andy Martin Show. We have amalgamated together to bring unity to our podcast so that we don't have too many going on at the same time. So, welcome, Andy Martins, tonight. And our special guest from Vancouver is Dr. Kathleen Reay. Dr. Kathleen Reay is an international recognized expert in high conflict divorce, parental alienation, parent child estrangement, and child psychological abuse and related traumas. She earned her postdoctorate credentials as a diplomat and fellow of the American Academy of Experts in Traumatic Stress in recognition of her highly specialized work and achievements in the field of parental alienation. Her clinical career has been dedicated for helping alienated children and their families forward. She's worked with over 5,000 plus alienated children. That's a lot of children and their families in varying roles. As a clinical practitioner in private practice, child custody evaluator, expert witness, and the founder and clinical director of the Family Reflection Reunification Program for severely alienated children and the families. Dr. Reay is also an author, co-author of several peer-reviewed, published parental alienation research studies. Her 2011 book, Toxic Divorce, a workbook for alienated parents, won International Book Award in 2012. Congratulations. First place winner in the parenting family divorce category and award-winning finalist in the self-help relationship category. Dr. Reay's newest book for alienated parents is set to be published by the end of this year. She is well loved speaker on radio, podcasts, and television shows worldwide. And we are so honored to have you here on Let's Talk, Real Talk with Andy Martins and myself. Welcome. So, Andy, would you like to welcome Dr. Reay with us?
Welcome to the show, Kathleen or Dr. Reay. Definitely in the big leagues today for everybody watching. This is Dr. Reay is pretty big in Canada, equal to a lot of, the experts in the United States. Well, we've got one of Canada's biggest right here on our show today live.
Absolutely. Well, Andy, we're going to ask Dr. Reay a few questions here. Let's take this one at a time. And I'm going to ask the first. And while Kathleen is speaking, I'm going to share the show. If all our viewers out there would like to share, comment, we would appreciate your support as well. So welcome, Dr. Reay.
Turn off the politics. This is more important than political activity going on here in the United States today.
Absolutely, because, parent alienation is a serious matter here in Canada, the US, the UK. It's worldwide. It's not an isolated area. So, Dr. Reay, how long have you been in this field, and what inspired you to go into this highly specialized field of clinical practice?
Oh, that's such a great question. Well, believe it or not, the truth is my first involvement with an alienated child actually took place in 1978. So yes, if you do the math, that's 46 years ago. And at that time, I was a legal assistant at a large family law firm in downtown Vancouver. And one of my cases involved a 6-year-old boy, and he had a proven normative relationship with both of his parents. And what happened was he, prior to the divorce, of course, it was, a proven normative relationship. But upon meeting this little boy in person, he explicitly told me that he hated his mother. He wished she'd moved to Cambodia, of all places for a 6-year-old to think of, or just suddenly died. Yet he held the exact opposite thoughts and feelings towards his father. And I recall feeling really stunned and alarmed by his remarks and behaviors towards his mother. As a matter of fact, I just felt compelled to try and ascertain what type of psychological disturbance this child was actually enduring or undergoing. So I eventually left the law firm and I went on to earn my present degrees and my fellowship. And back then, of course, it was extremely difficult, as I'm sure you can recall, to find any written resources relating to anything, especially regarding this disturbing type of psychological parent-child relational problem. And it wasn't until 1993, when the World Wide Web was introduced to us, that I began to attempt to start researching for this psycholegal phenomenon that fit this little boy's bizarre treatment towards his mom. And through a tremendous amount of energy and time coming up with appropriate search engine words, I discovered Dr. Richard A. Gardner's works. And in my eyes, this was like winning a lottery, and, meeting that little boy just left this everlasting impression on me. And I often think about him. I almost think about him daily and wonder how his life actually turned out.
Wow, 6 years old. Yes. My ex-husband was alienated in 1960. He was only a year old, never to see his father again. So I helped raise him to learn how to love. His mother was stone cold, pushed him out of the house, married at 14, when he was 14, had a baby, never wanted him anymore. So, these alienated children grow up to become alienators because 19 years this week, I was falsely arrested to never see my kids again. So, Andy, you got the next question there.
Well, I don't know. It's so simple. Mary and I have a great relationship doing this show, and but that's for another day. All right. On that note, Dr. Reay, anti-parental alienation deniers seem to have a real thing against Dr. Richard Gardner. He's gotten a bad rap that just won't go away. What's that all about?
Yeah, great question, Andy. It's all about misinformation and disinformation, quite simply lies. Dr. Gardner, who coined the term parental alienation syndrome in the mid-'80s, he has been targeted by critics in a manner that shifts focus from constructive debate to something that's beyond character assassination. And despite having passed away well over 20 years ago, Dr. Gardner continues to face defamation with absolutely baseless and egregious accusations, such as charges of pedophilia or worse. I've read on a couple of occasions where people thought he was found guilty of pedophilia. Both of those accusations are completely unfounded. His writings did not encourage pedophilia, and he never said that pedophilia and sexual abuse are not child abuse. He emphasized that false allegations of sexual abuse have irreparably damaged the lives of individuals wrongly convicted of such crimes. And his work has been significantly misinterpreted and distorted to an unrecognizable extent. His statements have been altered to convey a message or a meaning that's entirely different from his original source material. Moreover, individuals who have interacted with Dr. Gardner, whether on a personal or professional level, including his former pediatric patients, some of these people whom I know either personally or professionally, and one in particular is a leading parental alienation expert. And all of these people characterize him as a kind, intelligent, gentle, caring man. And they wholeheartedly recognize that Dr. Gardner's intentions were significantly misconstrued, I should say.
Well, you know, this is what they say about many people today. Many specialists out there are getting slandered. You know, just the other day, I had a specialist on, and the comments that people throw at her saying that she is the child abuser, and you know, it's just we all get slammed. The alienated parent will be called a child abuser, a child molester, whether it's a male or female. This is their tactic to suck everybody into believing that this is not real, that these people that lost their children are because they're abusers. And 99% of the time, it's all wrong. So, you know, I followed Dr. Gardner. He's the one that helped me find my husband's father in 1984. We were on our way to California to meet him for the first time. That was my father-in-law. You know, I was curious what my children would be growing up to, right? And whether these stories that I heard of him being a monster from his mother, because when I asked her for his address when we were getting married so I could send him an invitation, the words came out of her mouth right in front of my whole family saying, oh, you don't want to know him. You don't want to invite him. He's a monster. We're 22 years old. I mean, come on, time to tell the truth, right?
Yeah.
So I know what it's like to be, you know, alienated, to be slammed, to be taken to courts over and over. So Dr. Gardner only tried to do his best like everybody else today. But it doesn't matter. We have haters. We all have haters out there. And, you know, to the haters, what are you going to do? Prove it. They need to prove it, right? So my next question to you, Dr. Reay, is parent alienation deniers argue that PA is only a belief system that's supported by pseudoscience or no science at all. Is that true? I mean,
Mary, nothing can be further from the truth. You know, zealous PA deniers fail to acknowledge the breadth and diversity of scientific research conducted on parental alienation. Yet, you know, my colleagues, many from the United States, like Dr. Harmon, Dr. Warshak, Demos Lorandos, Matthew Florian, they provided an exhaustive analysis of scientific literature right up to the year 2020. And then subsequent research publications have continued to emerge past 2020 as evidenced by numerous works. You know, I won't go into citing all the names, but believe me, there are a lot. And, you know, based on the reviews that I've done, they don't even encompass several hundred additional scholarly articles and literature reviews on parental alienation, which further enrich the academic dialogue. Another thing I want to point out is disinformation in the realm of parental alienation pertains to the deliberate dissemination of false or misleading information with the intent to deceive. And this phenomenon can manifest through various channels. And I primarily, you know, believe it comes through blogs, Instagram, and of course, other social media platforms that are comprised of skewed studies and manipulated data. And, you know, you're right. It's often organizing from interest groups with specific agendas, right, who have biased research. And they try to seek the gravity of of making alienation, result in some distorted understandings and inadequate interventions, including treatment interventions. And these repercussions are particularly dangerous in this domain of academic findings. And it significantly influences real world outcomes. When you
Right.
think about political and legislative platforms, all the way down to the family courtrooms and therapeutic settings. So to me, misguided legal decisions, such as those concerning custody arrangements, may arise since courts frequently depend on scholarly research to make well-informed determinations regarding child welfare. And so I encourage all of your audience readers or viewers to check out institutions. I think the best place to go to actually is the Parental Alienation Study Group, that's pasg.org, because the organization offers the most up-to-date research that comes out. And, there are quite a few studies just within this year alone that have been pumped out. Again, I kudos to people like Dr. Jennifer Harmon and her graduate students and all, and there's more coming. And, we just have to keep banging on those doors, so to speak, and making it known that we have some really good scientifically valid and reliable stuff out there on PA, and don't listen to all this other crap that you hear from these zealous PA deniers.
Exactly. They're just trying to cover their own. They're making money. It's just horrific what they're out there doing to these children. I mean, my children have been alienated for 19 years, and they're adults. No kids, no relationships. They can't hold jobs. It's so sad that they can't come to me when I raised them for the first 20 years. And then all of a sudden, they have no one to go to because the alienators forget about them once they've got what they wanted, because they're only here to punish us by using our children, right?
Absolutely.
So it's there's millions out there that are saying it. And, when they do reach out to their children are backlashing to the parent verbally. And it's not the child that's saying it. What it is the alienating parent that has been embedded in the child's head, brainwashed. So the children are parroting these alienators to hurt us.
Yes.
So, Andy, you got another question for us?
I do, Mary. Mary and I sharpened our pencils this week because Dr. Kathleen Reay is among the best. You're just joining us. She mentioned fellow colleagues in the United States, and Edward Crook and Kathleen Reay are out in British Columbia. So that's great. I got a long one here, Kathleen. So let's get at her. Is there a scientific way for clinicians and forensic practitioners to evaluate children? Oh, it's that long. I was trying to follow it along here. Children of separating and divorced parents concerning the possible diagnosis of parental alienation. And if so, what one major feature is that severely alienated children exhibit that of non-alienated children. So if so, what is one major feature that severely alienated children exhibit that non-alienated children do not?
Okay, yeah, you're right. That's a big question, but I can answer it. Whoops. Parental alienation is a really complex phenomenon that's garnered increasing attention in the field of psychology and family law. Obviously, we won't have a whole lot of time for me to delve into all the existing research on this topic. However, it's important to recognize that there is, as I mentioned earlier, a growing body of evidence supporting the validity and reliability of diagnosing parental alienation. And I highly recommend utilizing several key diagnostic tools, especially for anybody who evaluates parental alienation or wants to know more about it. First of all, I strongly endorse an article that was published by Dr. Burnett, Dr. Greenhill in the Journal of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. This work introduces a structured approach known as the 5-factor model, which delineates 5 essential components crucial for accurately diagnosing parental alienation. And while these elements have been acknowledged previously, Dr. Amy J.L. Baker and Dr. William Burnett's efforts have integrated them into a comprehensive framework that aids practitioners in effectively identifying and addressing parental alienation. Now, of course, the 5-factor model is frequently referred to as the Baker model. Second, the Rowland's parental alienation scale, known as the RPAS, introduced by Gina Rowland in 2019 through an article in the Journal of Divorce and Remarriage. Her scale offers a standardized measure for assessing instances of parental alienation. Third, the Baker Strategy Questionnaire, the BSQ, developed by Baker and Chambers in 2012. This instrument gathers reliable data about specific alienating behaviors experienced or currently exhibited within the family context. And it measures 17 primary behaviors. Fourth, there's the Baker Alienation Questionnaire, the BAQ, also from 2012. And this questionnaire objectively scores children as either alienated or non-alienated based on observed behavioral patterns. Fifth, the Parental Alienation Scale, which was created by Gomay, Camargo, and Fernandez in 2016. It gets done by family evaluators who are familiar with individual cases, and it differentiates between alienating parents versus targeted parents, along with distinguishing between alienated versus non-alienated children. So it's also a very good one. And then Blag and Goffrey, their research that was conducted in 2018 also deserves attention. Their study utilized the Bain-Anthony Family Relations Test to explore differences in parent-child relationships among families experiencing parental alienation compared to those facing neglect or emotional abuse. Number 7, in 2018, Dr. Burnett, Dr. Gregory, Dr. Rohner, and myself, we all collaborated on a pivotal article published in the Journal of Forensic Sciences titled An Objective Measure of Splitting in Parental Alienation, the Parental Acceptance Rejection Questionnaire. And this study specifically addressed a critical symptom seen in severely alienated children, namely the phenomenon of lack of ambivalence, often referred to as splitting. Now, splitting is a psychological mechanism commonly observed in patients with certain mental disorders, but it also manifests distinctly in children experiencing parental alienation. These kids tend to dichotomize their perceptions of their parents, labeling one as, all good, and then the other is all bad. And to investigate this, what we did was we employed the Parental Acceptance Rejection Questionnaire, also known as the PARQ, which consists of over 70 questions that children answer regarding their feelings towards each parent. Developed over 3 decades ago by our colleague, Dr. Ronald Rohner, the PARQ has been translated into numerous languages and utilized in approximately 40 countries, establishing itself as a highly valid and reliable psychological instrument. And our 2018 study demonstrated that severely alienated children who underwent my treatment program, the Family Reflections Reunification Program, exclusively, or I should say not exclusively, but they exhibited a distinct maladaptive mental mechanism characterized by an intense level splitting. So this is a phenomenon long documented through descriptive qualitative research. And notably, this high level splitting was observed exclusively among severely alienated children before they underwent my reunification program. And yet it was absent in our control groups. We had 3 other family control group categories: intact, divorced, and neglected.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, and I
Wow.
should mention too, I just got one more I want to add, and that is,
Okay.
in 2020, we did a second publication in the Journal of Forensic Sciences, actually it was 2000, and it was titled Measuring the Difference Between Parental Alienation and Parental Estrangement, the PARQ Gap. And we were able to demonstrate that the parental acceptance rejection questionnaire can distinguish with 99% accuracy between alienated and non-alienated children. So this study really offers a robust method to differentiate parental alienation from other causes behind contact refusal. The PARQ gap also, in my eyes, serves as an invaluable tool for both clinicians and forensic practitioners when evaluating children of separating or divorced parents suspected of experiencing parental alienation. So, all of these examples I've given, this is a body of research that underscores critical insights into assessing parental relationships, and it also affirms the Family Reflections efficacy in addressing child or parent clinical issues that way. If anybody is interested in learning more about all of that information, they're welcome to send me an email. We can always give out my email address later. And yeah, and then I'd be more than happy to send them the information.
Quick question, are therapists being taught all this? Like, are they, like, there's a lot of therapists out there that don't recognize PA, so they say, but, they
Tell me
make
about it.
matters
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah, we are offering training programs. This time of year is not the best time of year to do it, and we have a lot of other types of work that we're doing, especially reunification program, because so many parents from all over the U.S. and Canada are trying to get their kids into our program before school restarts. But yes, we will be offering some online training programs, and we also plan to do some training programs through Simon Fraser University in Burnaby, British Columbia.
Wonderful. That is wonderful.
Thank you.
Wow. That's so good to hear because, what can I say? I'm going to ask you the next question. Can you provide us some tips on how you can encourage your alienated child or youth who refuses to have contact with you to have contact with you?
Oh, yeah, sure. That's an awesome question.
I'd love to know.
Yeah, I can think of probably at least 10 different ways to go about doing that. Do we have time for that?
Oh, absolutely. We got lots of time. We're just almost hitting a 30-minute, so we got lots of time.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, reconnecting with a child after a period of alienation can certainly be very challenging, but it's important to approach the situation with care and a lot of understanding. So yeah, I'll offer some strategies and things that your audience members or others might consider saying to help facilitate that reconnection. The first one I can think of is acknowledge their feelings. You want to start recognizing the child's emotions. You might say something like, I understand that you may be feeling confused, hurt, or even angry. And it's completely normal to feel that way. And I'm here to support you through it. Two, I really encourage those of your audience members who are really interested in this topic is to validate the child's experience. Let them know that their feelings are valid, and you could, express something like, I want you to know that it's okay to have doubts, and what you're feeling really matters. And I want to hear about it whenever you're ready. Number three, offer hope. Reassure the alienated child or children that parental alienation, you don't want to bring up the term alienation, but just reassure them that what they're undergoing is a very difficult challenge, but it's not permanent. And you might say to them, I believe that we can work through this together, and I have hope that we can rebuild our relationship. Fourth, I would encourage parents to provide clarification. So if the child asks you, why did you do something that you did not do? I highly stress that you say back to the child, you respond, I'm sorry that you were told this about me. I have never stopped loving you. Fifth, be patient. Understand that acceptance may take a lot of time. And you can communicate this by saying, I know this might be a lot to process, and I don't want to rush you. I'm here for you, no matter how long it takes. 6, consistent actions. Show your commitment through consistent, positive actions. You could say, I want you to see that I'm dedicated to being here for you. I'll always show up for you, no matter what. 7th, express remorse. So if applicable, genuinely express remorse for any past mistakes. You may say, I realize that some of my actions may have contributed to our distance, and I'm truly sorry for that. And I want to learn from those mistakes. 8th, reassure your love. Emphasize your love and commitment. You might express, no matter what has happened in the past, my love for you has never changed. I care about you deeply and tremendously. And 9, encourage open communication. So let them know that you are there to listen. You might say, I want to hear from you whenever you want to talk, whether it's about your feelings or something else on your mind. And 10, take small steps. I refer to them as baby steps. So just starting slow to rebuild trust, such as spending short periods together or engaging in activities that, the kids enjoy. So you could say, maybe we can start with a little bit of time together doing something that I know you really like or have liked, and we can take it one step at a time.
Wonderful. That sounds easier said than done, when you have some kind of open communication, but when There's no communication whatsoever. The children are blocking you, not taking phone calls. The alienating parent is keeping all contact to zero. What do they do then?
Yeah, another really, really good question. So you want to, again, I like using the term baby steps with the kids. And, it's crucial to be sensitive to their emotions
Right.
and thoughtful in your choice of words. And, the kinds of guidelines that I believe should be observed are, first of all, you want to avoid blaming the child for the cause of the breakdown, right? The alienation. Let's face it, the child bears absolutely no responsibility for the alienation and should never be held accountable.
Right.
Two, criticizing or speaking negatively about the other parent is an absolute no-no, regardless of whether the other parent has played a tremendous role, which most of them do when it comes to moderate to severe cases in fostering alienation. But no matter what, you want to refrain from making negative or critical remarks about them in front of the child. These comments will completely compound the child's adverse perceptions towards the affected parent. Also, too, pressuring a relationship. I mean, I know how difficult this is for parents, and all I really encourage you to do is exercise patience and understanding without urging the child into reestablishing a relationship before they're ready. And judging or dismantling the child's feelings. You want to recognize that these severely abused, alienated children often grapple with complex emotions and experiences. The more severe the level of alienation, the more they grapple. So you want to approach them with empathy rather than judgment or dismissal.
Right.
Another thing I can think of right now is making false promises or coercion. You want to avoid offering false assurances or encouraging actions contrary to their wishes. Remember, an alienated child has navigated challenging circumstances, making reconciliation with an alienated parent inherently delicate. So, careful consideration of your language and actions is paramount to preventing further emotional distress for the child while respecting their current state of mind. Yeah, I think those are probably the major things that come to me at this particular time. And if you can think of something, please go right ahead and add your thoughts.
Okay. Sounds good. Andy, you want to ask another question?
Where are we, Mary? On number 6 or 7?
Number
6,
7.
7? Okay.
Oh, no, you asked number 6. Number 6. But actually, I think Kathleen Reay just answered most of that.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, well, go ahead, ask the next one.
All right, let's go to number 7. What are the kinds of things that an alienated parent should say to their alienated child or youth? They've been alienated in Mary's case, and my wife's sister is the same thing. After 19 or 20 years, it's pretty tough to come back with something to say to them.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's actually what I just talked about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, I think so. But yeah, I mean, I think those are probably the most important guidelines that I can think of, at least at this time. Sorry, my phone stand is going a little bit crazy. Can you still see me okay?
Oh, you're perfect.
Oh,
Um,
all right. Thank you.
would it be fair to say that the age group when you have to talk to your child is just totally different than when you're talking to a teenager or an adult?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you know, you have to look at all different kinds of things going on. I mean, for example, something that I have seen throughout my career is, and unfortunately I haven't had time to actually do a study on it, but if there's a graduate student or somebody who would like to come along and help me, by all means. I have seen that quite a correlation between autistic children who end up becoming severely alienated from their the targeted or rejected parent. So, I mean, just that alone, if you're dealing with a child who's on the spectrum, then you've got that much more that you need to deal with in terms of knowing how to, you know, kind of talk to them in a really good way, and to, you know, not make them so they get extremely angry or anxious. So I mean, that's just one thing. But yeah, definitely, like what you were saying earlier, Mary, depending on the child's age, depending on other factors, you have to talk to them in a different way. And yeah, it's not easy. It is not an easy thing to do because, as we all know, rejected parents, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So whatever you say may not necessarily come across in a positive way, but, you know, I'll talk more about when we can. I'll talk a little bit more about our treatment program and how that can certainly help in a major
Yes,
way.
please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
Okay.
I think we need to hear about that one
Sure. When you want to do that.
right now. Right
Right
now.
now.
Tell us
Oh,
about
okay.
yes. Tell us about your program. I'm really curious because I'd love to get help for me and my kids. You know, I got future grandchildren coming one day. I don't know when, but I would like to know so I could have a relationship with my future grandchildren. So, and
Yeah.
many of us out there would love to as well.
Yeah, you know, I'm getting more and more emails almost daily now from, you know, grandparents and, you know, other people like yourselves where that's what they're looking for. And we actually offer that. But yeah, I'll tell you just a little, you know, some snippets about the Family Reflections Reunification Program. So I founded it back in 2011. And it is an intensive 4-day psychoeducational and family therapy program designed to help families reconnect and heal. We started off in the Okanagan region of British Columbia. We're now on the picturesque Vancouver Island, just across
Nice.
the Georgia Strait from Vancouver, British Columbia. So there are lots of
Beautiful.
great ways for people to be able to get here, whether from, you know, Seattle or other parts of the USA, and of course across Canada. We've also had quite a few families that we've worked with through the years from various parts of Europe. So we're pretty proud of, you know, what that's turned out to be and what that looks like. But our program offers a very supportive and nurturing environment for families in crises. Admission to our program does not require a court order to determine that a child's resistance or refusal to engage with a rejected parent is solely due to parental alienation, nor is it necessary to establish that the favored parent is entirely responsible for the children's reluctance. Instead, the Family Reflections Reunification Program is available for families when the court recognizes that our specialized program can provide the necessary support and ingredients to facilitate the reestablishment of a healthy relationship between the child or children and a parent who the kids refuse to have contact with. So our program is particularly effective for cases involving moderate to severe parental alienation. Additionally, it is well suited for situations of child psychological abuse by a parent, coercive control, parent-child relational distress, or other relevant diagnoses or codes that are outlined in the current DSM-TR5. So our goal is to create a safe space for families to work through their challenges and move towards a more positive, connected future. Our reunification program, our findings have been reinforced by 3 peer-reviewed studies in prestigious American journals. The American Journal of Family Therapy, as well as the Journal of Forensic Sciences, which I think underscores our credibility. The primary objective of the Family Reflections Reunification Program is to reconcile children, typically between 7 and 18 years of age, with their rejected normative parent, to foster a healthy relationship between the child and their parent. Our highly specialized program facilitates a swift, emotionally safe reunification between children, teenagers, and rejected parents. Now, the favored parent is permitted to select their own private practice therapist who is not an employee of our program, and the therapist, however, must possess demonstrable training and substantial therapeutic experience in cases involving parent-child relational distress, like I said, child abuse, severed parent-child relationships, parent-child estrangement, coercive control, all of those things, right? They have to know the full gamut that way. So that, again, they know the differences between parental alienation, estrangement, or other forms of contact refusal. And our clinical director, she is responsible for approving this selection before any therapeutic relationship between the favored parent and the chosen therapist can actually commence. So since the inception of the Family Reflections Reunification Program, not once has any child undergone any trauma from leaving their favorite parent and coming to our program. And for our program to be successful and to continue to be successful in reestablishing a healthy relationship between children and their rejected parents, it's our professional opinion that 2 things must occur. First, there must be an interim transfer of legal and physical custody and guardianship, including sole decision-making power granted to the rejected parent. And two, there must be a minimum of a 90-day no direct or indirect contact period between the child and the favored or alienating parent that further guarantees no contact in any form, including electronic means. And the primary reason for implementing a minimum 90-day no contact period is essential. It's to prioritize the safety and the well-being of the child. It's essential for the courts to acknowledge that in instances of severe psychological abuse perpetrated by the preferred or favored parent, it is absolutely counterproductive and not in the child's best interest for the rejected or alienated parent to relinquish their parental rights. So awarding custody to the rejected parent is so important. It enables the child to access necessary care and support, facilitating their recovery from inflicted trauma. So it's paramount that courts prioritize the child's well-being and safety above all considerations, and to actively intervene to safeguard these children from ongoing harm. So a temporary reallocation of custody and guardianship to the rejected parent is absolutely beneficial rather than detrimental. It's serving the child's best interests effectively. And in cases where one parent is engaging in moderate to severe psychological abuse, similar to other forms of child maltreatment, physical abuse, sexual abuse, continuing contact with that unrepentant abuser can be so damaging, so very, very damaging, and it's deemed inappropriate. As long as the favored parent or alienating parent holds a position of power in the children's eyes, the no contact period remains essential. And this is because the child remains trapped in a loyalty conflict that is imposed by the favored parent or alienating parent. So during the no contact period, the child will actually be able to form a healthier relationship with the rejected parent, free, absolutely free from the influence of the favored parent. And additionally, the no contact period is crucial for preventing any regression or setback in the child's emotional development. Instances of coercion, or I should say instances of coercive control or parental alienation, must be distinguished from standard custody disputes where, the court aims to identify the more suitable parent among two fit individuals. But such cases have to be treated as instances of child abuse with the alienating parent who's deemed unfit due to their harmful actions towards the child. And the assessment of such situations requires specialized expertise in alienation rather than an evaluation by a court, mediator, or minors counsel.
Right. Exactly. They're only out there for the money. But I
Well, but they
know,
just don't have the training, right? They don't
and
have
they
the
don't have
training
the training.
in the
Yes. So
field.
they're
Yeah,
looking at how they can get it done over with quicker. They don't care whether the child suffers anymore, you know, as long as they can get it processed.
exactly.
So, and what I want to say, because I've been saying this all along, that the alienating parent has to release the child to go see the other parent. And if they don't do it, those children will never leave the alienating, the good parent, so they say, you know, because the alienating parent has issues, and the children feed off of that. They know that the father doesn't like the mother, or the mother doesn't like the father, so they're keeping the child away from the one that they don't like, right? So if that parent says, you know what, go see your mom, go see your dad, they miss you, that's all the child needs to hear. And then they won't fight. They won't. I know what happened to me. I haven't seen my father in 40 years. And when I was told to go see my father, I was, how old was I? 14. So I was 50. And it was like a relief that I didn't have to hide. I didn't have to be scared of my dad. I didn't have to hate him because the other parent hated him. That's how I grew for 40 years. And then I watched my own children do it to me after their father was going through that. So it's a generational curse. And if they don't stop doing it to our children are going to do it to their partner and their child. So,
Yeah,
so
you're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, because I've been in this field for such a long time, I'm actually aware of a case that here in my own province, where we are now dealing with the third generation.
Mm,
And I'm sure that, I mean, obviously that's just one out of I don't know how many, but you're absolutely right. And that's why it needs to be remedied. And I'm not saying this because I have a reunification program that's very
no,
successful and has been, but the truth of the matter is, it is the best way you can ever possibly have that child and rejected parent reconcile in just the way that it's done. And it's all psychoeducational the way we do it. And the kids, they're the ones who put the pieces of the puzzle together based on our modules. you
right,
know there's no pressure, there's no demanding, there's no manipulation. I mean, again, the anti-PA zealous deniers, right, say all these stupid things that they accuse us of doing, right, like we
right.
punish these
Torture
kids,
them.
they're getting
Yeah.
bread and water, or we don't feed them, they're in a closet locked up. I mean, just absolute nonsense, right?
They,
If people could see where we're located, and of course we have to keep it treated like a safe house, because alienators are, I mean, we've had some incredible challenges, or we not here, thank goodness, so far on the island, but we certainly had them when we had our location in the Okanagan. And there, because so many of them are so mentally unwell and unfit to be parents. I mean, it was unbelievable how some of the things that they would try and get away with or try and do. So yeah, our job is to protect these children in a
yeah.
safe, beautiful location. And we're very proud of the work that we do.
Good for you. I mean, we need professionals out there that can really understand the generational curse.
Yes.
That is number one, because I know I'm heading for my fourth generation now. This is like scary. And we need to stop these kids, because the next generation after that is going to get even worse, because there'll be no one out there to help anymore, because we're all getting older. We've been
Mhm.
dealing with this for decades, and who knows how much someone else is going to take on to get the education that we have gotten.
Yes.
So it's really important for courts to recognize what is happening to the children, and how both parents should be involved, and none of this, you get 75% and you get 10 or 20% of parenting time. It should
Mhm.
be equal parenting time, equal shared in doctor's appointments and dentists, and to ensure that the kids are getting what they're supposed to be getting. Because a lot of alienating parents out there that say, oh, I spent all my time with the kids, but yet they don't know who the doctors are, who their therapists are, or what school they go to, or how to put on, what outfits they like. So it's a whole new process for the alienating parent. So they get frustrated, take it out on the kids, and then that's how they badmouth the other parent, because, oh, your mother did this wrong, or your dad did that wrong. And so the kids are picking up on that. How about you pick up the phone and say, how did you do this so that I can do it right? You know, that's how parents should be,
Yes.
helping the child in the best interest of the child, not in their best interest. We were there to raise these kids equally, lovingly, and then all of a sudden it's like they're disappeared, they're gone, they're dead, yet they're living. It's a really painful situation. We're grieving, prolonged grief disorder. The child is grieving because they lost a parent. They lost, half their life.
Yeah.
So,
It's very, very
in,
sad.
in- it is sad. I think I've asked all the questions I could possibly ask. Um, what is I'm going to ask you your success rate in reunifying? I mean, you've had over 5,000 children, and they all, how did they all go home happy? Like,
Yes, every single child that has undergone our 4-day intensive reunification program went home with their parent who had been rejected. Now, keep in mind, aftercare services is a very, very key component of our program. So prior to the end of our 4-day intensive reunification program, we have already set it up with both the child who has come to our program as well as the parent who has been rejected, to ensure that they are getting aftercare services in their locale. And if there isn't a therapist who is available in their locale, then we will do it through virtual means to ensure that they're getting the support and, family therapy, whatever it is. Again, every family's different in terms of what their needs are, but that's what we certainly make sure happens before they actually leave our place.
it's customs,
Sorry,
right?
was there another question you had that I may have missed
Uh,
regarding
I
that?
don't, I don't think so. Did we?
Okay.
Um, no, I think we did. I don't know. I don't think we did.
Okay, no, what I meant was what you were saying. Oh, I know what your question was. Sorry, it's just come to me. You asked about our success rate. So
Yes.
first of
Oh,
all,
okay.
I want to preface something. That is, we've not actually had 5,000 kids go through the Family Reflections program. We've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids go through. But the 5,000 relates to my overall experience
Total.
from
Yeah.
doing everything, right? As a
Yes.
child custody evaluator, as a therapist in private practice, the whole
Right,
gamut
your
of
whole,
all the different roles that I've played throughout the years. So I just want to make sure that that's taken care of. The other thing is when we did our pilot studies for the Family Reflections program, which was back in 2011, and that was actually published in a peer review, the American Journal of Family Therapy in 2000 and when was that? I think it was 2015, if I'm not mistaken. And the findings were at that time we had a 95% success rate. Now we have basically 96.8% success rate. And part of that reason for it being a little bit, I mean, you know, not perfect, although I don't expect anything to be perfect. But what has happened is after the kids and their rejected parent went home, we have had very few. I mean, right now I can only count 2 on my hands right now, where that I can think of that the kids ended up having, unfortunately, the alienating parent got a hold of the kids. In one case we had back in, I think it was 2014, a father broke the court order. He got a hold of his son, who had successfully reunified with his mom in our 4-day program, got a hold of his son approximately 2 weeks later by Snapchat, and he encouraged the child to get in a taxi that the father had already, I believe, pre-ordered for him, to arrive in the middle of the night at the mother's home when the rest of the family were sleeping. And what happened was that particular case ended up going back to the Supreme Court of BC, and the judge actually ordered for that child to come back into our program as a result of what had happened with the premature contact with the father.
wow.
So, yeah. So good on that judge. And,
Yes, children are
you know,
protected.
exactly. And so, like I said, with our program, we've had a very, very high success rate. And, you know, I don't think it's totally all about myself and our team. Really, what it's all about is the fact that once that child is no longer under the umbrella of their cult leader, meaning the alienator, that
Mhm.
the child is freed. That child is able to be the person they used to be with their normative parent who happened to be rejected. And,
Yes.
you know, that's the magic that takes place. It's not about, you know, me as the founder or, you know, the head reunification therapist of our program. It is about the child having that opportunity. It's a gift that's given to them to be able to be released from that cult leader and to be able to experience life with the rejected parent in a safe environment, and to recognize as they go through our different learning modules that, you know, they weren't this horrible monster that, you know, the alienating parent had made them out to be. They aren't dangerous. They
Right.
aren't going to harm you in any way, you know, but it takes a court to make that decision, to make that happen for these kids.
And this is what it should be happening worldwide, so that, you know, kids can have someplace safe to go to. I know when my husband would come home after being gone for 6 to 12 months, the first day the child didn't want to go near near him. Second day, you know, it got to the point where dad had to do stupid things to make them laugh. Third day, the kids were more comfortable with them, with him, with the father. And the fourth day, it was just like he'd never left. So, it takes time. It's a slow process, but in that 4 days, it's a huge process to get those kids back to, in dad's arms again, to, find out he's going to go away again. But, at least they'd learned that it was safe to come to be with the father after being with me for 6 to 12 months alone. And, I see them blossoming. So this is how I see alienated children too when I go on supervised visits. Within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the kids are now hugging the mom or the dad because they did miss them. And then when it was time to go, they started acting up because they didn't want to go, but they didn't know how to show the fact that they didn't want to leave that parent again. Because they know what they were getting home to, right?
Exactly. You bring up something that I have a name for. I call it the rear view mirror approach. So, for example, when our transport team picks these children up who have been court ordered into our program, what our transport team has noticed, and I've been a big part of that team, since we opened up our program in 2011, that the moment that the alienated child is driven away from the alienating parent's home, it's like the rear view mirror. You can no longer see that home that the child's been living in. Right away, we notice a difference in the child's overall psyche. I mean, these kids, they all of a sudden they change their whole facial, characteristics change. They're not angry anymore. They're not fighting. Instead, we do lots of fun things with them, right? When we're traveling with them to bring them to our location. And there, you can just tell that there's this huge cloud, this dark cloud that's been lifted off of their own chests. And already before they even come, they seem so different. It's
Sigh of
amazing.
relief.
It is a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
And that's how I felt too when I got to, see my dad. And it was kind of like a sigh of relief too to see my kids on trial in Zoom. And even though I hated being there, this is how I got to see my kids in court only for 19 years. But still, I got to see them. And it was like a relief knowing that they're still alive. So, yeah, this is the part where I have to cut it myself off because I get
I'm
very
sorry for
emotional at
what
the
you've
end.
been through. I'm really sorry for what you've been through all these years, Mary. But
Thank you.
I am so happy that you've been able to do what you do, and that is this program.
Yes.
You're a lifesaver to so many people.
Oh,
So
thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
I'm just, I know one of my daughters told the judge that she's doing this stupid thing on parent alienation on Facebook. And the judge, she looked at me and she knew it was not a stupid thing because she saw my kids were damaged and they were adults. There was nothing she could do other than pray for my kids. So at the end, she wished me well. And, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing what I
Yes.
can to help other people and my future grandchildren. So, in closing, Catherine Reay, Dr. Reay, I am so grateful to have you here with us today. Andy Martins messaged me to say sorry he had to leave, but he thanked you as well. How about giving us your last words out there of encouragement to parents dealing with parental alienation today? What can you say to them?
I strongly believe that no targeted or rejected parent should ever give up on their kids. And I mean, here you are as a prime example of that, Mary. What I do encourage parents to do is take breaks whenever you need to.
Mm.
Look after yourself, engage in good self-care. But don't cut off your relationship with the children. I know that many of you can feel incredible anger. I mean, there's well over 1,000 different emotions that I have listed actually in my book, Toxic Divorce, that I put in alphabetical order just based on all of my times that I've worked with rejected parents throughout the years. So I know that it's an incredible emotional roller coaster. But like I said, take breaks, but never, never, never give up.
Thank you. That's my last words too, to all alienated parents and grandparents, nieces, nephews, cousins, everybody out there. We're all missing out on our kids.
Yeah.
So never give up. Never give up. If you have contact with your cousin, send them a note saying your mom or your dad misses you. Let them know. I mean, it's strongly encouraged to step forward and say to your cousin or your niece or your nephews, it's okay. We're here for you.
Mhm.
So in
Absolutely.
closing, we've exceeded our hour, but it was the best hour ever. Thank you, Dr.
Oh,
Reay,
well,
for
thank you.
your support out here. And I'm going to put your email in there so that other people can reach out to you. And I'm going to say goodnight and never give up, parents. Never give up, grandparents and alienated children. Reach out and touch someone. Thank you and God bless.